Well, welcome everybody. So, we're going to scroll through. How many of you, how do I word this? How many of you have been able to use ShareFile for this? Most of you? How many of you would like to but can't quite yet? If you're choosing not to, that's okay. But the way I've set this up is so that we can't go through every musical example. Some of them are 40 minutes long, and you don't have to at home, but you may. And so I set it up so that you can go home and watch, right? True. And then you can play the slide, you can learn what you want to, and you can listen. And so I show you little examples, but as you see, and we try to do a lot of live music. So Barbie's backstage here waiting for her cue to come out and play a beautiful Rachmaninoff prelude for you. And then this morning, she and Chris are going to do what she and I did a couple of weeks ago and play a different suite for two pianos, a couple of movements from that. And then at the end, Adam Collins, our wonderful cellist, is coming in, and he and I are doing a part of the Rachmaninoff Cello Sonata, which we plan to play either later this year or next year. It's such a big piece. As you are starting to get the hint, I think, Rachmaninoff did not believe in watering down the piano parts. So they are full. Bushels of notes, as my teacher at Oberlin said. And the cello sonata is no exception, because Rachmaninoff wrote it not just for himself, because he didn't want to be the only one that could play it, but it's challenging, in a way more so for the pianist. But he wanted the piano part to not just be an accompaniment, he wanted it to be a co-equal. And so you'll see this on the slides this morning. Is the sound level okay? You all right? Anybody need higher level? Let me know if you need it higher. Okay, so we'll stay with this. So we're going to scroll through some slides, and then you'll hear parts of examples. I'm not meaning to cut it off, but I just want you to get the idea that you can do this at home. Is that true? Is that okay? Are you all right with that? Otherwise, we would be like here for 4 hours listening to all the way through every example. So not meaning to cheat you, but to encourage you. So this is kind of fun. So I was realizing that, we've had trouble with the technology for the last 3 weeks, and I'm thinking, oh man, will this ever get fixed? So Terry, I said, can you give me a lesson on how to do a certain thing? And we did last Friday. So we think we have it almost 100% now. But you see, if it were all perfect, then we wouldn't improve. So I've grown a lot through this course already, but I don't want to make you guys. Here's the next slide, and you'll see why I'm telling you this. So Thomas Edison, there was another way that this quote comes out in history, where he gets the failure for the 800th time. He fails to get a filament that'll work inside a light bulb, trying to make a light bulb so people can have light in their homes other than candles and soot and whatever else. And anyway, so instead of, oh man, I failed again, he would say, yeah, now I know it. Yet one more way how not to make a light bulb. He just wouldn't take no for an answer, and he got better and better. But I'm only on failure number 3, so if we're going for 2,000. So we're going to be here for a while. So we're going on, but isn't that a good attitude? I was deciding the option was, I've been telling you how Rachmaninoff just went into that 3-year depression, right? Because things didn't go the way they should have. I was thinking maybe I should just do the 3-year depression because the technology wasn't working so well, or I wasn't working so well with it. But I've taught in PowerPoint for years, so we're all learning how it works here again. So thank you for your patience with that. And my name is not Thomas Edison, but interestingly, he comes to haunt us twice because he did the Edison phonograph that 2 of the recordings Rachmaninoff were for the Edison company. Isn't that cool? So Thomas Edison factors into this class a couple times. So here's coming up next week. The end of next week on Friday and Saturday night is Pianissimo. And that Pianissimo, Chris decided years ago, what could we call this event? It's going to be anything but quiet, right? With 5 grand pianos. One year we had 10 pianos for the 10th anniversary. And they'll be all on this stage, splayed out. So you see the keys, and you see our hair, and you see mostly our backs, but 5 wonderful pianos, and many students playing, and faculty playing, community pianists. So it's a great deal of fun. So he came up with the title Pianissimo, which means a whole lot of piano. Ha ha. It means soft, but it's not. Pianissimo. Piano means soft, and that's Italian. So if somebody says, can you speak Italian? You say, yes, piano, and you're there. Okay, so that's coming up in a week. And so next week, there'll be some sneak previews of pieces. And you'd think we planned this, but I had planned to do this Rachmaninoff course, and independently, Chris had been deciding how many times will Rachmaninoff be 150 years since he was born. So he's been planning to do mostly, maybe even all Rachmaninoff, but in so many different fun ways that it'll be a blast. So plan to come, and tickets are available, and you'll all figure that out. So see how quickly we're getting through these slides. And today we're going to hear some parts of these slides that have music embedded, but when you get home, you can listen to the entire example. So can you see this little scrolly thing right here? So Charlie Albright, who played so beautifully with the symphony, this is from his graduate recital at New England Conservatory. Beautiful performance. So you guys should listen to that and enjoy yet another aspect of Charlie, who we think will come back and play on our Celebrate Piano series before too long. So we talked about that a little bit. And then we're going to hear parts of the things that I've been trying to play for you for 3 weeks and then never got to happen. So just little snippets so you get the idea. So that'll be happening this hour and a half. And I'll just go on for now, and we'll announce the pieces as they come. So this is just for you to look at at home. And here's Charlie in his graduate recital at New England Conservatory. And it's really a wonderful space and place. There great training happens, as it does at at all of the conservatories, I should say, and many, many colleges. You know, we are not slouches here in Missoula, Montana. By any means. Years ago, I was working with 3 wonderful students. One of them my piano student, and they wanted to enter this MTNA competition I was telling you about. And I was so proud of them, but not until we went through about 60 extra hours of lessons over the course of a year. And it was a piano trio, so piano, violin, and cello. And it was a brother and sister violinist and cellist, so it was pretty easy to get all 3 together to rehearse. And by the time they won the state competition, and then they won in our instance, 6 states, because we're so spread out in the Northwest, there's only 6 states. Out in New England, there's 13 states all grouped together, so it's a little bit geographic. Anyway, they won the divisionals, and they won over Seattle, and they won over Portland, Oregon, and so they really had earned their place. And so they got to nationals. Well, that's a big deal. And I'm just telling you this off to the side because here's a kid who also went to nationals in MTNA, Music Teachers National Association. And so these kids, I said, when you get to San Antonio for the nationals, I don't want you to think, oh no, we're at nationals. I just want it to be your next performance, you know, that you try to do better than the last one. And so they did, and you could just feel it in the room. The judges sort of set their pencils down and just started listening. And so they didn't win first place, but I'll tell you, when you get to nationals and you get the 3rd place award, that's a pretty big deal, and they did. And I think Provo, BYU kids who had their whole program memorized, they were amazing. They won first, and then Vanderbilt, I think, won 2nd prize, and then the University of Montana won 3rd prize. And who did they win out? They won over Eastman School of Music and the University of Michigan and the University of Missouri, Kansas City. I was so proud of these kids, but they just took it in stride because they were so well prepared. Anyway, so we're in there, the University of Montana, yay. So here's Charlie and a little bit of his performance, and I hope it works. And if you'll just hear a snippet of go home and listen to the whole thing. You recognize the waltz, yes, the Blue Canyon. Sorry to stop it, but you get into the elegance of that beautiful melody, so beautifully arranged, not exactly transcribed, and there's all different fuzzy terms that get used, revised, transcribed, arranged. This would be an arrangement, because a transcription would be literal, should be at least the same, like transcribing from an orchestra to the piano or from a piano to the orchestra would be trying to preserve everything in some way. But arranging is free a little bit more, and this piece lends itself to that because it's so familiar. And Charlie, well, would you vote yes, we should have him back? So anyway, it was very fun to get to know him because I've known of him since he was probably 5 years old, because one of my great friends in Olympia, Washington, was his teacher's best friend, and so I've kind of kept up. So we had sort of a fun reunion, even if we'd never met in person, but we think we had. So anyway, that's Charlie. So going on, you'll enjoy this at home. And here I've been wanting you to hear just 3 different comparisons of the sound. And Michelle's going to help a little bit with volume back here because they all have their own internal volume that has nothing to do, and I can't really set it easily here. So we do that backstage. But this is Alexandra Zalotti, and you met Grace 2 weeks ago. She's just getting back now from a trip to New England someplace. And she may come again next week for the Pianissimo event and all that, we hope. So anyway, this is her great-grandpa, right? And his daughter-in-law lived, walk out which door? Where am I? This door, and go on Eddy Street to Arthur and go to the second house from the end of that next block and go into the basement apartment, and you'll get thrown out now because she doesn't live there anymore. But that's where she lived, and I would just go and I would see that she was reading or something, and I would knock on the window, and we'd have a nice visit. She'd tell me all the stories, and she was one telling me about how this guy, you're looking at his face, how he took his family, but only one child was still with him in the house at the time, Oksana. And he and his wife and Oksana all got on a sleigh with one horse, the horse covered with white sheets, the sleigh they're all covered totally with white, because they had to wait till December when the Baltic Sea would freeze the shoreline at least, and then they had to escape to what was then a safe city 40 miles away in Finland. I mean, I think it's horrible when you have to escape from a country. But that's the way it was, and especially in that time of change. And Rachmaninoff had already gotten out 2 years earlier because he had a concert series. I told you this, and I'm just repeating because it's good if you didn't hear it before or forgot it. But Rachmaninoff had 9 concerts in Scandinavia, so he had a visa. But by this time, Alexander was raising his own family and doing the St. Petersburg concert series, so he was very entrenched in Russia, which was becoming very quickly the Soviet Union, and so he had to get his family out. Anyway, and then Grace was sharing with us that her grandpa, Levko, right, Maria's husband, was still a child, not yet married to Maria, and he was imprisoned, and he was kept back, and maybe it was like supposed to be leveraged to get the family to come back. If you want to see your son alive again, you're coming back. I don't know any of that. I'm just making that part up. But I did read this, that Sibelius in Finland was intervening on behalf of the Zalotti family because they were basically world famous as a great artist and musician, and a person of, you don't mess with this family because they're so important. Not that other people aren't important, but maybe that got the son out of jail, kind of, because do some of you remember, she was saying he was in prison with 4 other men, so there were 5 of them in a cell, and gradually each one that was taken out of the cell never came back. And according to Grace, he could see or hear the execution, and he just knew he was going to be the next person. So this is serious stuff I'm talking about. So this family got out, and they did. And that's how Maria came to be part of the family. So I wanted to play that for you, sorry. I hope that'll come back. There it is. So, a little bit. This is such an interesting and true story. Maria told me this story, and you can read about it. Did any of you listen to the book, My Memories of Franz Liszt? It's in your assignment 1 or assignment 2. Just go back through them, and you'll find some interesting things that I'm trying to allow you to have. Now that isn't wanting to play. Oh, there we go. No, it's the next one. Oh, I'm gonna have to get out of this. I learned this last night. We don't know why. None of us do, but here you'll hear it. This is the piece that he not only studied it with Liszt. This is Alexander Zloty, Grace's great-grandpa. Grace lives just 90 miles away from here, and she'll be back, we hope. But he was studying this with Liszt, and he said, Maestro, if you would permit me, I'm not meaning to be like intrusive, but I think your piece would work even better if we did this with this section and we did this. And you've been getting the idea. I played for you that beautiful piece. That Alexander took a piece by one of his teachers and he just made it 100 times better. And so he did this with Liszt's piece, and Liszt said, this is amazing. He said, if I were going to take the time to do this revision on this piece, I would do exactly what you're suggesting. So he said, and I told you this last week, so he said, from now on you can do anything with my music, even after I'm gone, and you can sign my name, but you cannot sign my checks. That was their little personal, and Maria took such pride in that. Okay, so this is, I want to stop it just for a second. This is from a piano roll, and there are only 8 of them that Zloty did in his time. He wasn't a recording artist. He was a great concert artist. He made Rachmaninoff famous, and that's the connection. He made his cousin famous by taking the C-sharp minor prelude, the whole that piece, and he played it as an encore all over Europe, and then in 4 cities in the U.S. And the critics went crazy. What is that beautiful encore? Nobody's ever heard it. Well, you'll have to wait. That's my cousin Sergei Rachmaninoff. And so that's all related. So this is maybe the revision that Zloty suggested. And you'll listen to the whole thing at home, and just listen to the quality, because a piano roll in the old days would sound however the piano sounded, but the recordings sounded scratchy and everything like that. But nowadays, you can go back and take the same roll, and they can do digital things, and they can make it sound like he's here yesterday. So this one is pretty good. And this is Liszt's piece, The Benediction of God in Solitude. And I don't know if God was in solitude or the person who was getting the benedictions in solitude. But you can be sure that a recording in 1923 did not sound like that, didn't sound high fidelity. And then we'll go on. I'll get into the presentation again. So that was the little trouble we're having with the technology, but not too bad. So we'll see if this will work. And this is fun because you get to watch at home, get to watch the old player rolling. So it's a video of the roll, but it's the playing of Alexander Zloty, and it's the same roll. But here it is played, I don't know why, but it's on somebody's very out-of-tune piano, so maybe they just wanted it to sound authentic. And so you get to see, there's Franz Liszt, his picture. So this is the duo art of 1914, I believe is when it started. And this is the 1923 recording, 1 of 8 by Alexander Zloty. And it's coming up, and you get to see the little perforations, and you kind of follow the arpeggios. My backpack has something in it. Get the laser beam. So the long notes are over here. And it is this works. Maybe. Here we go. A little farther. So now the left hand's going all over the place. Big chord from the right hand. That probably would have been where Rachmaninoff would have said that's the point, that big climax, and yeah, da 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 dum, bum bum, and then everything from that moment would sort of subside. That doesn't mean there won't be other climactic moments, but we mentioned that one day that Rachmaninoff was very dedicated to that thought that every piece had a point, even if it's 4 movements, maybe 3/4 of the way through the third movement was the point of the whole work. That was a kind of a personal thing, but others believe that as well in Rachmaninoff's time. So that's that sound, and then this is a completely remastered, so it's so this is the same roll brought up to date. So it sounds like it was recorded by the person in a studio. So my own little research project will be to find out if this is the actual version that he suggested to list, because it said it's abridged, but I don't know if it was abridged for recording purposes, because you can only put so many minutes on a roll until you're having the paper towel in the bathroom here, and there's rolls going on forever. We could try that. We could perforate some hand towels, rolls, see what we get. Okay, so that's that, and then this is so interesting because this is what Barbie and Chris are going to play 2 movements for you in the near future. But before Chris comes out, I'm going to have Barbie share with you a prelude. I shared with you the other day, last week maybe it was, the D major prelude, which... And Rachmaninoff had this fantastic ear, so he would take an idea and he could spin the harmonic progression that would just melt your hearts. And that is not just an ordinary skill. You know, John Thompson was the piano books that I had when I was a kid. Well, John Thompson could make things sound pretty good for little kids, but he couldn't write these pieces that would endure for eternity. And so Rachmaninoff wrote that famous C-sharp minor prelude that Barbie shared with you, and we've been talking about how that helped make Rachmaninoff famous, even though he only got 40 rubles, whatever that was worth at the time. That was it. That's all the money he ever saw, but it became his claim to fame. All over the planet, people wanted to hear the person that had written that great prelude. The point is that there were 24 preludes written by Chopin, 48 preludes written by Bach, 24 by lots of different composers. So Rachmaninoff, no exception, also wrote 24 preludes in 24 different major and minor keys, 12 major keys, so C major, C sharp or D flat major. So there's 12 notes in every octave, so there's 12 different notes, so you can get 12 different major keys and 12 different minor keys. So Rachmaninoff, over time, just a few years, wrote 24 preludes. So that was the D major, you've heard that, and the C sharp minor you've heard. So Barbie's going to play for you now the G sharp minor prelude. And then we're going to come to this piece, and you're going to notice, if I get to my little clicker here, that It's dedicated to Tchaikovsky. I mean, these people knew each other. Tchaikovsky was Rachmaninoff's harmony teacher. Who better to help Rachmaninoff develop fantastic harmonization and progressions of harmonies? And Rachmaninoff himself said, I hear it, and then I write it. I can hear it, what it needs to be. It wasn't like, well, maybe if I stuck in that half diminished seventh here, it would sound pretty cool. No, he heard the meaning. He heard what it would do to our hearts as we listened. So this is, I think, the G-sharp minor prelude, yes? I'll be Barbie's page turner as needed. So I will shut off my amplifier here in case I'm saying, oh, that's so beautiful. That's what you'll all be thinking. And so this is the G-sharp minor prelude, and the idea of you'll get this shimmer in the right hand, but this haunting melody in the left hand, and then it kind of goes from there. But you can, do you want a little more light, Barbie? Okay. Well, there is more light.
Yes, thank you. No, I like it, Barbie. Yes.
This is what I did in Carnegie Hall, you remember, and I said, oh, I can say I played Carnegie Hall. I was just during the rehearsal, so I wasn't messing up anybody's. So maybe a lot of you know, because Barbie's a wonderful addition to our musical community. Am I on? Yes, no? Yeah, okay. And you're going to share with us a little bit here, just to sit. And so Barbie, when she finished school at Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, where not everybody who applies gets in, so both she and her sister Judith got in, and Judith went on to become quite the opera star with the Met, in Europe first, and then the Metropolitan Opera, and had a glorious career there. And Barbie went out and started playing community concerts with Columbia Artist Management. And she was telling me the other day that she had a set of how many preludes of the Rachmaninoff did you?
I did 5. I did a set
Here.
of 5. Yeah. Yeah, Rachmaninoff.
Is this on? You have to hold it
Yeah.
close to your mouth.
Yeah, so I chose...
No lipstick on the
No.
mic, though.
I chose 5 Rachmaninoff preludes to play for some of my recitals, and I love Rachmaninoff. He's just a dream, and he's so emotional, and his music is hard, I might add. So that's, and then I did play the Rachmaninoff concerto once with the Billings Symphony years and years and years ago. The Rachmaninoff, the same one you played.
The one where she was my orchestra. She was
right.
the soloist in Billings.
That was so long ago. So, in any case, yeah.
But she had toured all over the United States, and I think you played in Missoula as a community concert artist, did you not?
I've played, I forget under what contract it was, but I did play the Beethoven C minor concerto with the symphony, and I did, of course, the Mendelssohn Capriccio Brilliant with the symphony, and then once
You did a solo recital, though, also.
yeah, I've done quite a few solo recitals in Missoula, and starting out when I was 11 here in this auditorium, right when they built it, it was my very first solo recital. So.
I was thinking about this while she was playing so beautifully, that this piano is a 1947 Steinway. It was born the same year I was born. Mm-hmm. Barbie was just a tiny tot. And
I'd like to give a shout out to the School of Music here, because starting in the 3rd grade, I had to audition to be able to apply for studying with Professor George Hummel, who had Steve's job before Steve. And
actually, I had his job.
I auditioned for both of the faculty members. Rudy Wendt was one of the piano professors. The other one was George Hummel. And I had been studying already 3 years since 1st grade with Mary Staley, who was a local pianist, a wonderful woman, just lovely, wonderful teacher. So by the time I was in 3rd grade, I was playing, 2-hand pieces by Beethoven and 2-part inventions. I was already fairly advanced for a 3rd grader. And so I got in with Mr. Hummel. And then starting in 3rd grade till the 10th grade, I came for 2 lessons every week between 3rd grade and 10th grade. So I had, it was really, truly my favorite thing in the world to do. And I remember my mother was worried that maybe I was playing too much, so she tried to, at one time, limit the amount of time I would be able to play the piano. I want to play some music. And so it truly has been the love. It's my therapy. It keeps me going. Even now, it's just my favorite thing to do. So thank you, Steve.
Oh.
Thank you, School of Music.
Oh, we don't care if she can find a parking place as long as she finds a piano.
I spend more time looking for a parking place, really.
I know. Oh. Well, we love having Barbie back, and we're glad she chose Missoula to come back and retire here. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Chris is here. So we're going to go on, and we're going to shut off microphones as needed. But Chris Hahn, dear colleague, now I'm the retired guy, but not fired. I was never fired. And I wasn't even tired. I just retired eventually. And Chris and I remain great friends, and we're going to all collaborate next week on the Pianissimo together. We were in the parade, if any of you were at the parade. So they're going to play for you 2 movements. Which order are you going to go in? The Tears? You want to put the lid up? Okay, well, I'll do it. I'll do it. You're the artist. I'm going to put the lid up. Yeah, go ahead.
First lady, and then we're up front. So Pianissimo is usually a lot of fun. You have to build a lot of fun. That's truly actually possible. I don't know how much Steve has talked about it, so I'll keep it brief. But Pianissimo will be sort of an all Rachmaninoff theme. We have 25 pianists and 1 singer. You'll find out when you come. And it's going to be a little different than years past in different ways. We're going to have a little bit different arrangement. We'll have some video of hands. I'm going to try to kick it up a notch. And no applause. It's just going to kind of flow seamlessly through lighting. So hopefully should be a little different spin on an old favorite. And with Rachmaninoff 150th, we would be remiss if we didn't celebrate like you are doing and you are all enjoying with the wonderful Steve. Thank you.
So as they're getting set up to play here, again, the flowers, we get maybe one more week. Thursday night's supposed to be a baddie, but we get one night, if it's going to warm up again, where I can put on the sprinklers and the flowers thinking they're getting 50-degree bath, you know? And so they forget to freeze, so we'll see. But applause for Gary's flowers. And the applause comes just before I invite you all to put the flowers away for winter party that we're going to have. No, I'm kidding. Come and help us, do all the post-gardening event, but you don't have to pay tuition, and we don't pay you either. And I doubt if you'll show up, but at least know that there's a lot more than just harvesting the flowers. And anyway, it's a great labor of love, and like music, it just makes us happy. Okay, so here's Chris and Barbie. Do you need page turns? Are you all right? Pardon? They're going to play 2 of the movements. Yes, Tears first. Okay.
The Tears has a little poem, and then also the...
Here, you read the poem.
All right. So
We're checking her reading. Did she learn to read?
Actually, when I first started to play by ear at the nursery school here at the University of Montana, when I was 4, I went to the nursery school in kindergarten. I was playing already by ear, little Christmas carols and tunes, nursery rhymes. And I used to listen, my favorite radio show was Saturday Morning, Let's Pretend. And I learned the theme song to that by ear, and I played that. So my parents started me having piano lessons, but I couldn't read. I absolutely could not read, and the music I would put upside down, pretending to read. And so they stopped my lessons. They said, you wait till you learn how to read. And I thought, I had totally failed because I didn't know how to read. So when I got to be first grade, then I learned to read. And learning to read was the happiest thing I ever did, because then I could read music. And and I did. Every music book I got, I would read from the beginning to the end. Okay, so now these are 2 movements from a suite by Rachmaninoff.
This is the Opus 5 suite, which came like 10 years before the Opus 17. That's part of the trilogy of three inspirations after the Depression thing. So here are these.
Okay, so the number 3 movement is Les Larmes, tears, human tears, oh human tears, flowing in early and late season, flowing unknown, flowing unseen, inexhaustible as they may seem, flowing like rivers from the sky on a bleak autumn night. So there's nothing but tears. This is by Fyodor Ivanovich Chuchev.
We won't
Then
correct
the last one is bells. It's just nothing but bells, and it's the poem is Russian Easter, and mighty chiming flew across the earth, and the ringing air began to tremble. The singing silver thunders proclaiming the news of holy celebrations. And that is by Alexei Stepanovich Komyakov.
Very good.
Okay.
We won't argue. Oh, yes. Well, let's check her out on that play by ear thing. All right. So, do you remember last week? I hope I got at least to play a little bit of the bells of the Kremlin and all of that, and you hear this cacophony. So you go home on your own time and get into the sharefile, molly.sharefile.com, and all you need is, I think your address is already there, your email address, and you make your own little password, and it's yours. You get to go in. I think it's only until 2 weeks after, Molly, this course is over, and then everything disappears. So, including you and me. So, so please take advantage of this great hybrid. And I know people that can't come for a week. Grace is going to join, put the whole thing and watch all of them from her home up in Condon. So let's see if I can get back into this. And I wanted to show you again this great thing that Tchaikovsky was alive when Rachmaninoff wrote this piece. And so it made sense that he could dedicate it to Tchaikovsky, who was his teacher of harmony. And really a great friend in the end. They were, I read about it this week, that Tchaikovsky needed a great pianist to help him with these concertos. He was not a great pianist, so he could say, what can we do to make this all playable and exciting and scintillating? And so Zaloty was really a great part of this. And now there's the big Tchaikovsky competition in Russia every 4 years for piano. I think there's another year where it's for strings. You know, there's different concertos. And anyway, it's just the world of music is, I think the music is what unites the world somehow. Yay. I wish it were more successful at times, but it's true. And so here's the dedication to Tchaikovsky of this piece that you just heard, this third and fourth movements, and that I think will be on the Pianissimo concert. So moving along, you're going to find that, let's see, come on, there we go. This is the poems, more or less, that they're different transliterations of the Russian into English, but these are, again, the poems in this case, Fantasies, tableau. Tableau, I was reading up on it because who knew what tableau was? I wasn't so sure. And a tableau can be when they're on stage, there's a group of people and they just stand like this, like statues, and they're representing, you know, the clothing of the 1900 early whatever. Some kind of, it's a sort of a moment in time kind of frozen. So these were based on poems, which are always there, and they become alive when you read them. Just like art is always there, it's a finished product. But we in the music, it doesn't exist if you just look at the page, kind of, right? You have to hear it. We have to make the music, performers make the music come to life. And you can listen to our wonderful Anderson and Rowe that we had come here a few years ago for Celebrate Piano, and then as a result of that, the symphony had them come and play concertos with the orchestra, and they're really great players. And you can hear tears, and you can hear also the bells of Moscow, basically. We say Pask, and then I think it's French Pak. I'm not sure. Somebody can help me after the show today. And then we played this for you. I'm not going to play it today because this is Maria, and she's the one who lived on Eddy Street in Missoula, and her piano looked exactly like this. It wasn't that piano. And she would be, you know, she'd be playing while I looked in the basement windows, and I hate to interrupt your practice, Maria, but let's go out for tea. And so this is her playing, and I'll just remind you that it's so beautiful. And it's on that piano, not that type of piano. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about something, but she delays sometimes, and this was a romantic thing in the early 20th century, were there? Then right hand would come just a tiny bit after the left hand, and it got to be so much of sort of an idiosyncrasy that it got corrected in time. But when it comes from the soul, like it does from Maria, you hear this, it's called asynchronization of the melody and the accompaniment. Just see if that happens. Not always, but some of the time. And it means she's pulling the tone, and it sort of tugs at us as listeners. I I talked to her not so much about that, but about the piece and how beautiful it was. And she shared this recording with me. I don't remember how, because it was in the time of computers, but however we did it. I said, "Oh, Maria, that's so beautiful and so beautifully played." I thought it was an RCA recording, and she said, "Well, just a minute." And she found a copy of it, and she gave me a copy, and she said, "You should play this." So I got to play it on one of my recitals, and she was my coach for that, which was great. And this we looked at over the last few weeks, and these are pictures of, and I'll use the little red pointer here. This is on Lake Lucerne in Switzerland. There's this little footbridge, if you've been in Lucerne, and it's covered bridge for walkway across the inlet, if you will, of a river into the Lake Lucerne. And not far from that place, that entry into the real lake, is what became the Rachmaninoff estate. He needed a place in Europe for them to spend their summers. He and the two daughters and his wife, Natalia. There's Natalia. She was Natalia Satin, and if you did your homework, the Satin family, he got kind of farmed out to live with his cousins, the Satins, and eventually he and Natalia became such confidants and such partners in real life that they married and got permission to do so. And there's Maria from Eddy Street, Missoula, and from Condon, and Grace, her granddaughter. And there's Natalia, and there's Alexander with his student then, and maybe already his daughter-in-law, Maria. And then we have this. I love this picture. You know, it's so funny. In this country, I don't think you'd sit out on the veranda with a nice set of table, chairs, and everything on Lake Lucerne without some goodies. They're just there, you know. Said, well, if we have each other, we don't need little foods. So, and maybe they just posed for the picture. But there's Rachmaninoff in his stern kind of look. They say he smiled once and his face almost cracked. And anyway, but you can have a chance. Go back through the first week, and there's a whole 8-minute video that I gave to you guys to look at, and it's of home movies of Rachmaninoff. He's dancing with the two daughters, and it's so cute. And it's just home videos. It wasn't like a professional, here's the great artist. It was just Rachmaninoff at home with his family. So you can look at that. And then you can read more again about this, because this parallels Rachmaninoff ultimately. Zoloty won the gold medal at the Moscow Conservatory, yes, 10 years exactly before Rachmaninoff earned the same gold medal. So they were 10 years apart in life and 10 years apart in awards. And then, in a way, as you are getting the drift of this, it's more than just because Maria lived in Missoula, we should talk about Zoloty. It's kind of the other way around, because Zoloty was so important in Rachmaninoff's career and life all the way along. He kind of rescued him from that fiasco up in St. Petersburg. Remember when Rachmaninoff wasn't going to class and was changing his report card very good, all of this, and his mom was saying, "Are you sure you did very well in that course?" And anyway, he ended up with the great teacher in Moscow, Zverev, who really gave the riot act to these kids. They had to do their homework, and they became great musicians, all of them. So you'll read about this on your own time. And here is something I want you to hear just a little bit before Adam and I play for you part of the cello sonata that's so beautiful. It's just as beautiful as the second concerto, as beautiful as the two-piano suite, Opus 17, the suite, Opus 18, the C minor concerto, Opus 19, the cello sonata. Those are the three pieces that spilled out of Rachmaninoff after his hypnotherapy, which you guys all did pretty well on your hypnotherapy. I remember 2 weeks ago, you were all falling asleep, and then I said, "You're getting very sleepy," and you said, "Exactly." Wake us up. Okay, so here's this great piece, and this is based on Bach. I mean, this is how far back it goes. Now, maybe you've never heard this saying, and I can see none of you are taking notes, so you're not going to pass this course, but you're taking mental notes. So there's a saying that if all of the music of the world disappeared, let's say the classical world or the Western world, that includes jazz, it includes honky-tonk, it includes ragtime, it includes everything. But if all the music of the world disappeared except the music of Bach, you could recreate everything that came before and everything that came after out of that core. And that's a worthwhile thought. And so this piece by Bach, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the Bach version. So you hear just a little bit of this, I hope, and here it comes. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen. This is Bach's little prelude he wrote when his oldest boy was 10. Now, there was an older girl, 2 years or so older than the boy, probably 1 year or something, and he didn't write it for her because girls weren't supposed to take keyboard lessons. The boys were supposed to be the ones that would carry on the musical tradition or something like that. You know, there's all kinds of issues throughout history. But this little prelude was written for Wilhelm Friedman, and you see the music of it. Whoops, and you're going to get an idea of how it relates to what you're going to watch the hands doing. And then you don't see the music anymore, but you get the idea. And then Bach quoted himself. He used that as the inspiration for his prelude and fugue. So you'll hear all three a little bit. Here's just the beginning. So the left hand has this little melody. And the harmonies, in a way like Rachmaninoff, are beautiful harmonies. And it goes on for not so many measures, but that's how his son was learning to play the keyboard. And probably the next children also, excuse me, Carl Philipp Emanuel, etc. Then, now here's Bach's manuscript, and I think that is so cool. When I was taking a course at, sorry, hang on, that should just stay there. So at Oberlin, we had a course where we learned how music moves, and we had to move it on a floor, and I felt like an elephant, but she said that was okay. I would catch on. And we got pretty good at understanding that music is bigger than just what your fingers do or what your bow arm does and all that. It's physical movement. Here's a great saying that you should write down in your mind, since none of you have notebooks. Music is dance for the ears, and dance is music for the eyes. They're so connected. So if you feel your toes tapping while you're listening, or just the rhythm, or the harmonies, or the beauty of movement, those are temporal arts. They happen in time, like drama. Like a play has to happen. You can read a play, of course, but even that's happening in time. So here is Bach's manuscript of what he did with that piece. So he turned it into this beautiful, I hope it's going to come up. If not, I will go back. I have to move out of this. This is the thing we're trying to figure out this week, but we're getting better. We're not Alexander Graham Bell or Thomas Edison yet, but here it is. Same left hand, but now Bach puts this beautiful flowing melody. You can listen to the prelude and the fugue, because somebody asked me last week, what is it, a prelude to something? Well, for Bach it was a prelude to the fugue. And then by the time of Chopin wasn't so great at writing fugues, maybe that was a thing of the past. So preludes became free standalone pieces. Okay, so going now to what really Zalotti did with it, this is quite stunning. And you'll listen to it in complete at home. But you'll see, and you won't see the score so much, it's in one of your slides, but just listen to this. This is what Zalotti did. So he changed the key from this to this. Something like that. So that's the idea, that he moved the little moving notes into the right hand, and he made these harmonies similar to Bach's first version for Wilhelm Friedman, and this is what he came up with. And it is the most beautiful encore you could ever hope, or recital piece to ever hear. And this is Zalotti's creation. based on Bach, but not transcribing, not arranging, not even revising. It's a whole new piece inspired by Bach, and that's what I'm saying, Bach. If all the music disappeared except Bach, maybe we'll figure out a 250th year of Bach celebration or something. I think we've already had that. 1750 to 2000 was his 250th. Are we going to be around in 2050? Maybe not, 2050, but somebody will. And so here is. This is Emil Gilels. Isn't that beautiful? Climbing in the sound, higher and higher, going up to heaven almost. And Zloty would have played this on his concert tours. He dedicated it to his daughter Kiriana, who lived in New York alongside. And then he repeats it, brings out. This is a live concert, I believe, in Russia. So that is the gift of Alexander Zloty. It's very spiritual, it's very aligned. You can feel the cousinliness, if you will, of what he could share with Rachmaninoff. It's my guess that as Rachmaninoff was coming out of the Depression and Zloty was there, they did the premiere, the world premiere. They played the two-piano suite that Barbie and I played part of for you the last couple of weeks. They played, that was the world premiere, was with Zloty and Rachmaninoff. So it was not just his teacher, not just his cousin, they were fellow musicians. And this piece, when I was a freshman maybe at Oberlin, I mean, maybe I was a freshman, but yes, I was. Maybe it was that year or the second year there that Emil Gilels, this guy you're looking at on the screen, came to Oberlin to play a recital. That was a big deal to get out of the Soviet Union and get to have a U.S. tour. They had KGB agents everywhere. I don't know where they were in the Finney Chapel. It seated 2,000 people or whatever, and we were all there. And I got to sit in the pretend you're Emil Gilels at the piano, Marianne Albee there, and I'm in the balcony, and I was eagle eyes on him the whole time. I mean, he never saw me at all. He was in this trance. This recording was made in 1965. That would have been probably 1967. So this is his time. And I don't know if he's still living even. I'm sorry that I don't always know. I asked my mother once, is so-and-so still hanging around in South Dakota? And she says, Stephen, I don't even know. I'm 97 now, and I don't know who's still with us and who's not. So I guess it's okay if I'm not sure about Amel Galel. My mom lived to 98, made it pretty far. Okay, so Adam's coming out now, and we're going to play for you little parts of, I have to get my music, my black pack. Oh, where is it? Here, thank you. So Adam Collins, our wonderful subsequent, he is Fern Glass years later. Fern's still doing great. We just talked on the phone this week. But she's up in Seeley Lake in their wonderful little, used to be summer home, but now it's a year-round home. And she had a legacy here for many, many years. She was retired a little before I did. I had 43 years of teaching here. She had probably 40, close to it. And now Adam's working on it. He's thinking, will I make it? Anyway, this is Adam Collins, wonderful cellist, great friend. The teachers love him. I mean, yes, they do. There's the colleagues, but the students adore him. And so you'll hear why in his playing. And we're going to play a little bit, some demonstration. I'm going to get some slides up here. You heard in tears, for example, do tears rise or fall? They fall. So he didn't go. But this piece does exactly that. So I'll give you an A if you want. Okay, I'm going to try to get through a little bit here. Just give me a sec, I hope. So that's your Bach. And you can read about the cellist who did the premiere. The cellist that did the premiere of this piece with Rachmaninoff as pianist was the best man at his and Natalia's wedding. So you see, everything's pretty familial in Russia. Now you're looking at the first movement, first page of this piece, and you'll get to listen to this recording by Lugansky in your home time. And it's gorgeous, and he's a wonderful player. And this phrase is what in Schumann's time was called an interrogative phrase. It asks a question. So what do you do when you ask a question? Do you end up or do you end down? You say, well, how are you today? Or are you having a good time in this class? Or are you asleep? and your voice goes up towards the question. So let's go. And I got to get my other glasses. Hold your breath. I hope I can find them. Oh, dear. That's a must. You want to help me look? Here. No. Here's my checkbook, not my glasses. And if I were Liszt, I wouldn't let Adam sign. No, that's my, well, I'll just use these. I'll be fine. I'll make it up. Well, Barbie used to do this. I mean, it's like bifocals, right? And the reading part is like this. So you'll think that's the interrogative phrase. Are you rising? So here we go. Every, everyone, I'm just going to keep looking for my glasses because, oh, thank you. Oh, I can see you guys now. I won't. There, you're gone. But I'm here. So every phrase was asking a question. And there's more to it than you might think. So now we're going to play just a hair of it without any feeling at all, just correct notes, kind of good phrasing, but not the musical meaning. And that's kind of a thought for today. Okay, so hopefully that felt a little bit ho-hum. But when I was telling you I used to listen to Leonard Bernstein on the little RCA television with a 3-inch speaker in South Dakota, and I said, I don't hear the difference, but maybe it was the speaker and not my naivete. But now we're going to play it again, because when we play music, it won't move you if we don't get the meaning of it from what's inside the score. So again, with your normal heartfelt. Okay, so you get the idea. So that's our job. And when I was teaching full-time here, I don't think there was a week that somebody didn't hear. Our job is to convey meaning, not to play a beautiful piece and everybody applauds our efforts and our work, but to share the depth of it all. And we always talked about this and said, if you hear more deeply in the course of a piano lesson or a cello lesson and you get it as a student, then you go back to the practice room and you practice more deeply because you hear more deeply. So that was our job, not to just convey meaning to you as listeners, but to convey meaning to our students, right? And so that's our task, and it's a wonderful task, and you never get tired of it because every kid is new every week, every moment is new. So this is common in this time. It's the same as when Mozart's staying. We're going to get to, we just have to make sure we save enough time for the last movement. So just quickly, maybe we'll just show the opening theme. So the opening theme you're looking at right here of the piece. So we talked last week about yearning. You yearn for something. You yearn for 10:30 so you can go home and have your coffee. Or you yearn for something. And so yearning is encoded into music. So that whole first page, you didn't hear even a hint of G minor. So everything is non-G minor. So that's one of the ways. So the interrogative part, the interrogative phrase, what key are we in? We're not in anything. We're still not in anything. And now here's G minor for one split second, but you don't sit there. And that's eventually related to G minor, but we don't get to G minor till the second page. And that's one way Beethoven started it, really, in a way. He just said, well, why do I have to start in the key of the piece? I can make everybody want it and wait for it. So let's do just a hair of that, okay? This is now in G minor. You get a G minor chord there. But then you get real G minor there. Finally, we got home base. So here we go. that's a first theme, normal first theme of a first movement of a piece. It's supposed to be vigorous and rhythmic and dramatic and really get you going. But then the second theme is almost always lyrical, like in the concerto, it's this. And in this piece, it's this. Isn't that pretty? What could... So that's the heart-rending theme, right? Just... And then we get to this last part. This could be called the closing theme of the first section, and it goes... And then you go back to... And you repeat the whole first section. But I want to know that we have enough time to play the gorgeous, glorious, maybe one of the most prettiest movements ever in piano and cello collaborative history, is the third movement of this piece. And we've been talking about the St. Louis Arch and the Roman arches and the Romantic Arch together. It's, luckily for you, there are no exams, but I think you'd all do great because I can tell you're still awake. Anyway, that's great. So this is the third movement of the sonata, and it's a centerpiece for sure. Everything else is brilliant and exciting and takes you on the ride of your life, but this movement is repose. But the arch is anything but repose. You'll feel it like welling up like magma from Mount St. Helens practically. So I'm going to shut off my mic, and then we'll see if there's any time for a thought at the end. Oh, isn't that beautiful? So I purposely wore this little kimono dragon tie today in case anything went wrong, and I decided I could touch it and things would get better, and maybe you'd all disappear and then I could solve the problem. Or I'd disappear. Anyway, it was so great to work on this piece with Adam, and I'm hoping we can do it. We're even talking about, I have a little connection in Germany where we could play, and he has a little connection in France where we could maybe play. So we're thinking about this. It would be a great, and you can all chip in, of course, or come along. It's so great to work with all of you and have this time together with you in music and with my great colleagues, Chris and Barbie today and Adam. And next week come and you'll hear the sneak previews. Is there a quick question any place for Adam or for whatever, just something? Okay, so we are at our time, and you have other things in your day, and we'll be back next week and look forward to it. And thank you so much. It sounded beautiful.